everybody, it's Tamara from Moogly, and I'm coming to you today. It is April 24th, 2019, live from Moogly headquarters, aka my basement here in Iowa. And I am here to tell you about some past projects, the things that have happened on Moogly this month, the things that are still going to happen on Moogly next month, a little sneak peek about next month. And I'm going to cover the giveaways and stuff, but a lot of that I covered this morning on Facebook. Today, this afternoon on YouTube here, I really want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on crochet hooks, second only to our hands as the most important tool we use as crocheters. I suppose yarn is up there too. You got to have something to crochet, right? But you know, I mean, got to take care of our hands, but then those crochet hooks can make a big difference in our project and how much we enjoy crocheting. So I really wanted to kind of step back and take a deep dive on crochet hooks today. A note about those, a lot of times I get asked by people, what's my favorite crochet hook? And the truth is, just like yarn, I feel like every crochet hook has its place, its perfect project, the right hand, the right material, all those things make a difference. If you watch my YouTube tutorials, you know, I actually use a variety of hooks myself. I don't stick to just one type of hook. Just depends what I'm making and what mood I'm in and what suits the project. All those things factor into my own personal hook choice, and I have an extensive collection, so I thought I'd share that with you today and talk a little bit more about things like shape and materials, things that can affect your end project. So thank you so much for tuning in. I see we've got Amore, Diana, Martha, Maria. Thank you so much for being with us today. Megan, Deanne, Nora, thank you. Okay, so let's get right to it. Busy afternoon here. Okay, first up, I'm wearing the Paloma Cardigan, which is the newest free pattern on mooglyblog.com. It's made with Red Heart Amore, which I have right here. If I turned and you couldn't hear that, that was Red Heart Amore right here. And this is a super soft yarn. It's polyester. It doesn't feel like polyester, though. It feels, I don't know, it just feels incredibly soft, warm. It's warm to the touch, I would say. It doesn't have a lot of fuzz. It's sort of a chain neck construction. If you look really closely at it, I might have to pull my reading glasses out to see that a little better. But it's a really gorgeous yarn. This one, I believe, is supposed to be available at Walmart's. Whether or not it's at your Walmart, I don't know. As well as, of course, yarn stores and on redheart.com. Speaking of which, links to the pattern, the yarn, everything I'm going to talk about in this video, hopefully, is at the link in the description here of the YouTube. If I talk about something and I forgot to add it, I will go back and add it after this video is done. Excuse me. And you can also go to that link to watch my Facebook Live from this morning and get a little bit more in depth on some of these too. I did want to point out, though, that the video tutorial for this sweater will be coming to the YouTube channel tomorrow, both right and left-handed videos. That is, of course, barring any technical difficulties. I've actually got Jeff, Mr. Moogly's in the next room working on it right now. So fingers crossed we'll have that ready for tomorrow morning. So I see we've got some more people. Hi, Kathy, Ann, Julie, Karen. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to stand up real quick and model this sweater before I get to the next piece. So this is the Paloma Cardigan. You can see it's a little bit shorter. It's got 3/4 length sleeves. I wanted something for that transitional spring fall wardrobe place. Kind of throw on as a jacket when it's just a little cool, maybe down in the basement, like where I work, or outside when there's that breeze in the evening, chilly offices over air-conditioned spaces, sort of that. I talk about, though, in the Facebook this morning about how to lengthen it. I made it sort of a shorter cropped jacket style. Fits me when I'm sitting here at my desk. I don't have to worry about sitting on it, it getting in the way when I'm working, things like that. But if you wanted longer sleeves or a longer sweater, I do go over that a little bit, how to do that in the Facebook video this morning. And I will cover that a bit in the YouTube tutorial as well. Sorry. I mean, you know, it's funny. On Lives Day, I often end up losing my voice because being at home and crocheting and designing and blogging, I just don't talk out loud that much. So I really have to be careful on Lives today. After even just 20 minutes of talking, I find myself losing my voice. Excuse me. All right. So real quick, the other two projects out on Moogly so far this month. The Benevolent Bumblebee. This one does have right and left-handed video tutorials up for it now. You can see just how big it really is without having to judge by my hands. It's nearly a foot by a foot by a foot. Very simple single crochet for 9 out of 10 stitches in this, if not more. So definitely check out the video tutorials for this guy. And then that was made with Red Heart with Love, I should point out. Just one skein of each color. None pink, unless you want to make the cheeks pink, but that's what I happen to grab. I love With Love. I talk about it all the time. It's such a great yarn for everything. It washes well. It throws in the dryer. I love it for anything to do with kids, pets, home life, home decor. Great yarn. I also used it to design this Tilted Heart Tote, which is also a free pattern up on mooglyblog.com. Again, linked at the link in the description. This one does not have a video tutorial, but it does have a very extensive photo tutorial. So that is there for you. It also features my no-sew bag lining, which is my favorite bag lining technique. I should say nearly no-sew. You still have to sew it to the bag itself, but the lining is made without any sewing, just an iron. I love it. Super fun. You can see, obviously, this is a little different. It's not all crochet. It has a Leisure Arts Diamond Dot Heart. This one happens to be for the sunflower here, but the point is you don't have to use the heart one. I liked the heart, but you can get any of these kits that are 8" by 8" and put your own square in there. If you didn't want to do the diamond dot part, although I think it's fun, you could also crochet an 8" square and just crochet around that according to the rest of the pattern. So lots of possibilities with that one. And then coming Friday to Moogly with a video tutorial next week, got some more filming to do, will be this baby sweater. How cute is this? This is going to be made with, let me pull the yarn up here, or it is made, I should say. It's not going to be, it's made. Red Heart Soft Essentials Baby. And there is a giveaway for this yarn happening on mooglyblog.com too, as well as a couple different hook giveaways. And I've got a lotion and hand product giveaway for those dry hands we all get from all this wonderful yarn, as well as an Otlight lamp giveaway. So again, if you go to the link in the description, you can see all that, the crochet along squares happening on Moogly, all that usual fun stuff. Just kind of glancing over it. Like I said, we went over that in more depth this morning on Facebook. So see here if we've got any questions popping up right away. Let's see, what are my takes on frills hooks? Well, that's something I'm definitely going to be talking about. Just to give you a little preview here, I have so many hooks to tell you guys about today, but frills are definitely going to be included there. One of the interesting things about frills is that they have several styles within their own company, but I definitely do enjoy using their hooks. So let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Anne. Such great comments. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, I didn't do a video because it's all just double crochets. Yeah, I tell you what, look at the photo tutorial. Tell me if you think it still needs a video, because I think the photo tutorial lays it out pretty well. And like I say, it's just rows of double crochet in the end. I know it looks more complicated, but it really isn't. All right, so let's see. All right. Whew, I think that's everything I needed to talk to you about before I get to the crochet hooks. I'm just checking my notes, making sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, let's get to it. So let's talk about crochet hooks. Like I said, suck into our hands and maybe the yarn. The crochet hook has a huge impact on what you make and how it turns out. And of course, there are a million different brands out there. Maybe not a million, but at least a couple hundred. Here is just a small part of my own collection. I kind of grabbed some representative samples from different brands and stuck them in here. And I want to talk to you guys about each of these today. But before we start talking about the individual hooks themselves, let me pull up a very well-loved boy hook from back when I started learning to crochet. This is probably one of the oldest hooks I own that wasn't inherited, we'll say. That wasn't inherited from a grandmother or a great-grandmother or somebody like that. I can tell because the paint's starting to wear on the end of the hook and because I remember using it. I've got great memories of this hook. This is an aluminum hook. Boy makes these. Bates makes these. Here is Susan Bates. This is one of the Mexican ones. Those of you who've been crocheting for a long time know that they changed a little bit when they switched production facilities years and years and years ago. But these are probably the two most affordable, bog standard, great for beginners, great for experienced people, reliable, inexpensive, find them in every craft store crochet hooks. These are what most people start out using. That's what I'd recommend you start out using. If you're new to crochet, don't spend a ton of money on fancy ergonomic hooks. When you're just learning, this is the hook you want to start with. You know, I guess if you already had arthritis in your hands or something, maybe then you'd want to start with an ergonomic hook. But, you know, for most of us, we don't start a hobby that hurts. So, yeah, so go ahead and start with one of these for sure. All these hooks have the same basic anatomy. Now, some hooks have a few more features than others. Some hooks get a little fancier and some hooks eliminate other parts. but I'll go ahead and hold this one up here. This is the Susan Bates as a representative example of a hook that has all the standard features. Now, down here, of course, is the point. This is the point. This is what you stick into your stitch when you go to make a crochet stitch. This can have a very pointed end. It can be, well, this one's still pretty pointed too. Let's pull up a different one. Here we go. It could have a more rounded end. And which you prefer, let me hold those up a little bit more, see here, see if I can get it to focus. Camera fun. There we go. So depending on how tight your stitches are, how tightly you naturally crochet, you may prefer a pointed end versus a more rounded end. That's just another thing to pay attention to. Now, right underneath the point here, the part that sort of, I'm grabbing a pen here so I can point out the part that goes in that you actually snag your yarn with. This part is referred to as the throat, and there can be a wide variety in throats here as well. You'll see some go a little deeper into the hook, and it can be a little easier to grab your yarn with those. Let me see if I can find one here that's a little shallower. These are all pretty darn good hooks. I've got a really great hook collection, you guys. But here, let me pull up this one. This one, you can see it's just a little different. It's goes deep in there, so I can get it done. But it also, oops, I had it. Maybe if I had my face. There we go. It goes a little deeper in there, but it's also at a steeper angle. So it just depends, again, on how you crochet. You may need to experiment with a couple different hooks to see which helps you grab that yarn better. And of course, it can depend on the yarn too. Once the yarn gets too thick, you're going to have to go up in hook size to be able to grab it. Now, this is I think one of the most important parts of the hook, but one of the most overlooked, if you will. And that is the shaft. And that is the portion that comes right after the thumb, but before, or excuse me, right after the throat, but before the thumb rest. So this one, you can see here, actually has a very, very short shaft. By the time you get off that throat and to the thumb rest, you've got maybe, here, I've got a little ruler on my desk. We'll find out exactly. You've got maybe 1/4 of an inch of straight shaft there, which is that really just that straight portion between the throat and the handle. Now, this one, on the other hand, without a thumb rest, this one is by Brittany. You can see it's got a pretty end there. This one, this would be all shaft. This is all perfectly straight. So why would you want a longer shaft? Let's see, let's pull up this one. This one is a boy. It's got a little bit longer shaft. You might want a longer shaft. You might want a shorter shaft. I find I like the longer ones when I'm making taller stitches. Now, if you're going to yarn over several times, that's going to keep all those loops the same size on your hook. If you had something, let me grab another one here there it is. Where'd the one I just had go? This one. If you were making a whole bunch of loops on this hook, you would want to almost try and squeeze them in right there. Otherwise, these ones that get pushed back on the thumb rest are going to be bigger. The ones that don't get pushed all the way back onto the shaft are going to be smaller because they're down here on this tapered end and they're never going to get as big. So if you are making a tall stitch or your gauge tends to be a little wonky, then you definitely want to make sure you're pushing all those loops up onto the shaft and that the shaft of your hook is long enough to hold them all and keep them all really even. Again, personal preference. Some people don't tend to make tall stitches and prefer a shorter shaft. It just works better for them. Depends on the project and depends on you. The next section, of course, I shouldn't have put that one down, is the thumb rest. This one you can see, hopefully, it's got a pretty good thumb rest right there. It shows the size on it. It gives you a chance to really hold on to it. Not all hooks have thumb rests. This one is by Furls. It's a streamline. None of their hooks have, so far that I've tried, have thumb rests as such. Neither do the Brittany's. Like I said, they've got one long straight shaft. Now, this can be a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on the crocheter. This one is by Chiagu. And you can see this one has a shaft here, but this handle has its own very unique shape. I don't know if I'd call it a thumb rest, but it's flat, sort of like a thumb rest. Let's see, here's another one. This one should be easy to see, a nice big Clover Jumbo. This one has a mostly rounded handle. You can see right there, hopefully. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's a little bit flatter right there on top. So that sort of works as a thumb rest. As you can see, thumb rest is optional. So whether it's a thumb rest or not, everything past the shaft would be considered the handle. That's, of course, the part you're going to grip with your hand. So that's the basic anatomy. Now, the thumb rest thing. Let's step back for that for a minute. Why would you want a thumb rest? Well, it depends on how you hold your hook. Indeed, the thumb rest as well as the handle are really where the hook interacts with your hand. From the shaft on down, it interacts with the yarn. So you really need to break, now that we've broken the crochet hook up into, what was it, 4 pieces? Now we can break it back down into just 2. We've got the shaft and the hook here at the end where we actually work with the yarn. And then we've got the thumb rest and the handle where it interacts with our hand. So both of those need to be taken into consideration. And those two can be made of different materials. The aluminum hook, all aluminum. This wooden hook, all wood. Pull this one back up. We've got a shaft that's aluminum and a hook, of course, the point, and the handle and thumb rest-ish section are all wood. So there's a huge variety here too. And that can make a difference as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Why would you choose let's talk first about the part that interacts with the yarn. The shaft, the throat, the hook itself. There are, as you've seen, several materials. Wood and metal are probably the most common. There's also plastic, however, you'll find. And I even have one in my collection where the entire hook is made of bone. So why would you pick one over the other? Well, again, personal preference plays a factor, but also it depends on the yarn you're using. If I'm working with a yarn with, say, a lot of acrylic or silk, something that's very, very slippery, then I would probably intentionally choose a wooden hook of whatever manufacturer, just depending maybe what handle I wanted that day, but I would choose a wooden hook because the wood, while it's smooth, it's going to have a little bit more grip. And that will interact with your yarn in a way that will keep it from slipping off the hook as easily. I know sometimes when I get crocheting really fast, the hook is flying, those loops are going, and I can start dropping loops off my hook. If I have a slippery yarn and a wooden hook, it's going to keep those loops on the hook just a little bit better. That said, if you find that your wooden hook is gripping the yarn a little too well, and you don't want to switch to a different type of hook head, so to speak, then you can take a little bit of wax paper and just rub the head of your hook, the point and the shaft, all the parts that touch the yarn, rub it really well with some waxed paper, and that will make it a little bit slipperier to help slide through those stitches. Now, if I were using something like a really rough wool or something with a lot of grip to it, something where I just wanted my stitches to fly a little better, then I might choose something with either a plastic head or a metal head. Both of those tend to slide through stitches just a little bit better. You don't see plastic hooks as often. More often than not, the plastic hooks, at least in my own collection, are the ones that are, let's see here, this one's by Clover, and this one is a Susan Bates. It's just because they're the bigger ones, once you start getting up into some of these bigger sizes, some of the materials get a little heavy, which can also affect your hand, not so much the hook, but the yarn, but it affects how it holds in your hand. So you'll find more often plastic hooks in larger sizes. So yeah, that's the materials for the actual part that touches the yarn. So experiment with that. If you're using one hook, you just pick up your favorite eye hook and you're crocheting along with Red Heart Amore, and you find, it's just dragging a little bit or something, you can say, if it's wood, try rubbing it with some wax paper, or try switching to a metal or plastic hook and see if that works better for you. Again, everybody's going to be a little different. Besides, of course, the metal, the wood, let's see, there's also, I want to say one other, besides bone too, rare, but out there, resin. Occasionally you'll find resin hooks. This one is a Candy Shop hook by Furls. Very slick indeed. They have what they call the finish that they put on cars, basically. So it's super slick. So that is another possibility for you to try out. So then back to the length of the shaft real quick. One thing I forgot to mention, you may have seen this one come up. This was actually the very first crochet hook I ever bought. I went to my local big box store, not even a craft store, where I was buying my groceries, and I wanted to learn how to crochet. So I picked up a pamphlet and this book and a very textured yarn. Those of you who've been crocheting for a while have probably spotted my mistakes. This is a Tunisian hook. You can tell that because it is obviously much longer than a regular crochet hook. It is completely straight here with no thumb rest, and it has a stopper on the end, just like you might expect to find with a knitting needle. This one is by Susan Bates. It is a 6mm. Ironically, J, probably still one of my favorite sizes. But yeah, this was a bad combo. It was too long. It was too heavy. Crocheting normally with a Tunisian hook is not something I'd recommend. For instance, these are some of my other Tunisian hooks. This would be a lot of back end weight on my hand. So if you spot these long hooks with stoppers on the end, these are generally Tunisian hooks, and that's for a different technique. If you're not familiar with it, definitely check it out. I've got some video tutorials on the Moogly YouTube page for Tunisian. But otherwise, Tunisian hooks are basically the same as other crochet hooks other than the length. Everything down here is going to be the same. There's not going to be a thumb rest because of the nature of this craft. You use the entire length of the hook, or at least part of it, the same way you would with a knitting needle, which is, if you knit, that looks very familiar. That said, if you are just learning to make Tunisian stitches and you don't want to go out and buy a hook to learn Tunisian with, find a hook in your collection that has a longer shaft on it. Even this is one of the Clover Amores, which I love. This one's got a fairly, it's got a fairly decent shaft on it. It's not super long, but something like this, a Brittany with a longer shaft would be fine. You can just make a narrower project. When you're first learning the stitches, it doesn't have to be, this wide. Make a little bookmark. Try it out. As long as you've got enough space to keep those few loops on your hook, then you can practice your Tunisian stitches without having to go out and purchase special supplies. And of course, with Tunisian, if you want to get a wider project, this is as wide as the project could be for this hook. Good for a scarf, not so great for a blanket. In that case, you'll need Tunisian hooks that have cords. And there are a wide variety of brands of those as well. I just thought I'd pull out real quick and show you one of my Denise sets. This is by Denise Interchangeables. They do interchangeable Tunisian sets, and these are plastic. They use plastic for all their sizes, but they come in these great pouches. And then with these, pull out that, you can see that needle, of course, is not going to be that long. And in fact, it even has a thumb rest on it. You've got just a short shaft to create the length of your loop. But then as you keep working those loops across, they will eventually, and these come with different sizes too. I'm just going to pull out the first one I came to here. There are cords. I did not lock that in there. Let me try again. There we go. There are cords and stoppers. So you can add cords. And then the nice thing about using a Tunisian hook with a cord is that as that project gets wider and heavier and weightier, that weight can rest on your blanket rather than trying to hold it up with the hook. That can really wear out your shoulders and arms. So that's something to think about too. If you enjoy Tunisian and you want to get into it more, you'll probably want to look at a set with cords, maybe an interchangeable set like this one, so that you don't, you don't wear out your arms trying to hold up heavy projects. So let's see. See if we've got any questions so far. It looks like we've got a few. So does the cardigan come in different sizes? Hop back to the cardigan real quick. Yes, small through 5X, 4 sizes. It's a small, medium, large, extra large, 2X, 3X, and a 4X, 5X. I'm wearing the large, extra large. So yes, definitely in 4 sizes. All right. Let's see. What other companies besides Boy make metal crochet hooks? Well, let's see. Boy does, Bates does. Both of those, I believe, are aluminum. Clover, their heads, the shaft and the point and all this stuff. The yarn part is definitely metal. I could not tell you. I think it's probably aluminum. I don't have the box near me. I threw the box away when I got this set. So I would assume it's aluminum, but I'm not 100%. So don't quote me on it. The Chiagoos definitely have a metal tip. And then some of the Furls. The Furls Odyssey hooks have metal tips. I believe they're a coated pewter. And these are great. Wow, if you want to talk about fast stitching, I will say I do love the Furls Odysseys for fast stitching. It's like I say, it's a coated pewter. So it is coated in, generally speaking, I believe either a nickel or a rose gold if it has a coating. I don't make them myself. I haven't gotten a chance to go to the house of the people who make them. These are all handmade. But yeah, this one's got a metal shaft, hook, throat, all that part. And the nice thing about this one is because the metal portion that touches the yarn is heavier than the handle, which is actually made out of resin, it sort of drives your stitches. The weight of the hook pushes the hook through your stitches, makes it a little bit easier and a little bit faster if it works for you. Again, everybody's a little bit different. So I always recommend trying different things. Let's see. So I talked a little about Tunisian and tall stitches, thumb rest versus no thumb rest and handles. Let's talk about that now, because that's where your hand is going to make a difference. I've got, let's see here. Here are 3 very different hooks. You can see the handles, very different shapes. But none of these have thumb rests. This one is a hand-carved hook. It's my most recent from Hannah Handicrafts. I haven't had a chance to use it yet. Just haven't had a chance, but I love it. I love the great big handle. I love the way it feels. It's got a really good length of shaft here. Maybe not for the tallest of stitches, but certainly for everyday crocheting. I think this is going to be a great hook. But none of these have thumb rests, and that's okay for me. I can work with a thumb rest, but for me, because of the way I hold my hook, a thumb rest like this, that's really wide and flat, doesn't work as well. And that's because I hold my hook like this. If you're familiar with my tutorials, I tend to hold my hook in a pencil hold. In addition to that, rather than moving my wrist, I'm a spinner. I like to spin the hook in my fingers. It's just the way it naturally came to me. It's different for everybody. Everybody's got their own personal style of crocheting, and none of it's wrong. As long as you're getting the stitches that you like, as long as your project's turning out the way you want it to, it's all good. So don't worry about that, but think about what's going to work for you. If you tend to twirl your hook while you're making your stitches, you may not want a thumb rest. On the other hand, let me find one with a really solid thumb rest here to demo with here. Here's a Clover Jumbo Amore. So this one's got a thumb rest right there. And if you tend to twist your wrist and elbow and arm more when you're crocheting, or if you have a knife hold and you tend to twist this way and just hold on really well to your hook, then a thumb rest may work better for you. Again, just depends on you. I would recommend trying a couple different ones if you can. When I go to crochet events, I have my bag of goodies. Go ahead and show you, sitting right here on my desk, my crochet bag with all my hooks and things in it. And I am always happy to let other people try out different hooks in my collection. If they've got something I haven't seen before, I like to try out theirs and just really get an idea of the different hooks out there, because you never know if you're going to find the one that fits your hand just perfectly and which one that's going to be. Just because it works for you or the rest of your friend or your crochet group doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be the right hook for you. So that's the thumb rest. Let's move on down the rest of the way to the handle. And of course, in some of these, this one is a hand carved one actually from Craft Witch Creations on Etsy. She hand carves these out of found wood, I think. Absolutely gorgeous, super fun. It's all about that measurement on the shaft. The rest is optional. But it's got a really unusual, fun grip. Now, each one of those is going to be different. Generally speaking, your grip is going to be standardized. Here's another Furls, one of their bigger ones. Again, a straight handle, wood. This one by Clover has sort of a plasticky elastomer type coating. Where's the one? I have so many. Sorry. Here we are. The standard Clover Amores, they call it an elastomer. It kind of almost feels like, it reminds me of those pink erasers from school a little bit. Not quite as much give, but certainly a bit more than you would get with aluminum or plastic. So you may prefer this. The Furls, of course, are known for being ergonomic, and they have the resin ones, or the Resin Odyssey style like this. Let me put this one down. They also have the Candy Shop style like this, which mimics often their hand-carved wooden ones. And then, of course, they have the Streamlines. And the Streamlines are a lot more like the Odysseys, but wood. So you can, even with, like I said, even within Furls, you may prefer sort of the bubblier shape, or you may prefer the smoother handle. But even then, you've got choices. You can do resin or wood in both of those options. And if you like the shape of the Odyssey, but it is too heavy for you, you don't like that pewter driving weight of it, then the Streamlines have that same shape, but all in wood and much lighter. So yet another option. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, there's the bone hooks, which keeps trying to disappear on me, plastic. Another one with sort of that elastomer rubbery type handle. This one's by Tulip. These are fun. They're pink. Tulip out of Japan. So that's another one. Oh, and they have metal tips as well. There we go. And those are pink too, which is really fun. So again, those are all options. You can find the hook that's right for you. Like I said, really just try them out, see what's going to work for your hand. For instance, the Brittany's, it's going to be a tighter grip, so it's maybe not ergonomic, but if I'm making something with this bunch of tall loops or maybe a narrow Tunisian project, then I'd want to use this hook. So those are just some more options. Let's see here. Which type of metal is best for rust resistant? You know, I've been crocheting for, gosh, 17 years now, and I have never had a hook rust on me. I suppose it could happen, theoretically. I don't know. I don't know enough about metallurgy, to be honest. I don't think aluminum can rust. Maybe it can. I don't know. What do you guys tell me? Can aluminum rust? I'm not sure. The thread hooks are generally stainless steel, so I've never seen those rust either. But yeah, I haven't run into rusting. If you guys have run into rusting, let me know for sure. I haven't seen that. I guess maybe I don't get my hooks wet enough. I don't know. It hasn't come up for me. Sorry. Can't answer that one. The Silver Loom. Yes, the Silver Loom soft handles by Susan Bates are lovely. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those in my collection. Let's see. Yes, see, and some amaniatos. You try to furls, but it spins around while you're crocheting and you need a thumb rest. Yep. See, it's just about how you hold your hook. Exactly. Let's see. Hi, everybody. Hi, Teresa. Let's see. You picked up, Amniato picked up 3 handmade modern hooks at Target, equivalent to boy. I haven't seen those. I don't think my Target has craft supplies. Lucky you. That's awesome. Let's see. All right. Martha, you said you recently acquired a set of ebony crochet hooks from Laurel Hill. Yes, those are quite nice. I've tried those as well. And let's see, Susan, you've added some soft grips to your Susan Bates. And yes, I meant to mention that is another option. If you really like your Susan Bates, your boys, your good old metal, aluminum, affordable baseline hooks, then go ahead. They sell little grippy things that you can buy right at the store to slide onto them to make them ergonomic. Additionally, I have seen there are some Etsy sellers and people who make wooden hooks for these, or wooden handles, I should say, that these hooks slide into permanently, generally, as well as polymer clay. Some people even like to make their own polymer clay covers for the hooks, their own handles, custom made for their own grip. So if you're a knife grip person, you could put a polymer clay handle on there, kind of get your grip in there, cook it, let it set, whatever. I've always wanted to use polymer clay, but I haven't done it myself. So whatever you have to do to make it cure, and then you would have a really custom hook for your hand. So there's another great option there. So thank you for bringing that up. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah, Diana, so you've never had a hook rust yet. Me neither. Yeah, I haven't. I keep them dry. I guess if your hooks are getting wet, dry them off when you're done. Maybe that would help. I don't know. Let's see. Do I like the Brittany's? I do. I do like the Brittany's. But like I said, not necessarily for every project. Just as like, there's a million Red Heart yarns. I wouldn't use Super Saver for every project. I want to use them more for the sweater, or with love for the bee or whatever. So yeah, I do like Brittany's. Like I said, not for every project, but when I've got to get a bunch of the same size loops and I want that gauge to be spot on, then that long shaft, I find you just really can't beat it. That said, if I need to crochet for hours and hours and hours, as I often do, then I tend to pick up a furls or a clover or something with a bigger handle. That will give me that little bit of that arm relief. So again, just depends on the time, the project, etc. Let's see. You have Target has yarn now. Oh my gosh. Crazy. That's awesome. Not maybe my Target. I haven't gone and tried to look. Maybe they're hiding it away in an aisle somewhere. That's very exciting. So anyway, the only thing that's occurring to me I forgot to mention is the shape of the hook portion, if you will. See, it doesn't really, it's not the point, it's not the throat, but the part right here that sticks out right there. And this is where true loyalty is often come down to, in the end, is inline versus tapered. And that is probably the biggest difference most people learn about their hooks right away. I've got a boy and a Bates here, and those are kind of the 2 standards. You can see, hopefully on the green one, hold it up by itself here, that the hook doesn't stick out any at all from the handle. Let me try and find a piece of paper or something here to make that a little easier to see. But yeah, it's right in line, and that's called an inline hook. This is great for general crocheting, of course, but in particular, I would look for a hook like this if I were making bullion stitches. Or again, let me think, maybe clusters, bobbles, projects where you're going to have a bunch of loops on your hook and then you want to yarn over and pull through all of them. Inline is really great for that. I also like to, after I yarn over, I will twirl, granted, or move my hook down so that the point is pointing back towards my work, and it makes it a little easier to pull through all those loops. The other style is, let's see here, and this is the tapered. It does stick out a little bit away from the handle. It's a little bit more that way. And it's just a little different shape. It does, you know, depending on the way you crochet, it might snag your work a little bit more because it does stick out. But if you're the kind of person who has trouble grabbing those loops, if they're always sliding off your hook, then this may be the style that works better for you. So that's another factor to keep in mind for sure. Let's see. Mary Haynes, the OP hooks to a 14 do rust if they get wet for a time. Okay, good to know. All right, so I guess, yeah, keep your hooks dry, and that'd be part of hook care, I suppose. So yeah, speaking of hook care, I did want to talk a little bit about that. I mentioned you can use your wax paper to make your wooden hooks a little slicker. Okay, I hesitated to reveal this because it's, I don't know, it might be kind of gross, but if you are finding your hook is just stuck and it doesn't want to go through a stitch and it's been working fine for the project otherwise, okay, don't judge me on this, you guys, but take your hook, whatever it is, and run it up along the hair just a little bit, just like that. Just run it along your head a little bit. That tends to make it just slick enough to get through that stitch. I know, only do some projects for yourself, I suppose, or wash them if they're going to somebody else, but if you get just that little bit of, just a little bit of extra, we'll say oil on the hook, then it can help it slide through in a pinch. So my gross yet very practical little tip right there for you. Let's see, but for cleaning them, you know, maybe after you've been running through your hair a few times, you just want to make sure that you clean them according to the, you know, the stuff it's made out of. Wood, you wouldn't want to soak in water. You would want to use probably some sort of wood cleaner and a gentle cloth to buff them clean. On the other hand, if it's resin or plastic, absolutely some dish soap and a clean cloth. You know, make sure you dry them right away so they don't rust. Apparently some can rust, so keep an eye on that. But in terms of cleaning them, you just want to clean them, you know, not every time you use them necessarily, unless you're crocheting in a field somewhere, in which case maybe you do. And that's not a slight. I grew up on a farm myself. So yeah, just make sure if they're starting to get a little, you know, a little dirty along the handle or something, a little bit of dish soap and warm water usually takes care of that pretty easily. I know sometimes mine get a little grungy. I don't, like I said, I don't have like a hook washing day. It's just, ooh, they're starting to get a little grungy. They need a wash. It'll be time to sit down and wash them. So let's see. Oh, good. Okay. At least I didn't gross you guys out too much. Thank you. So, alrighty. So that's cleaning hooks. And then the last thing I think I wanted to tell you guys about this hook until I think of something else that I forgot is I wanted to talk a little bit about hook gauges. And that's because there are so many different kinds of hooks out there, and there's different manufacturers, and they all have their own standards, etc. And sometimes you can get a gorgeous handmade hook or just a, you know, an older hook from a different company. Just depends. A million different reasons. You might have a crochet hook and you don't know what size it is. Now, of course, you could try and sit down and, you know, hold it up next to your other hooks and try and figure it out. But when you get down to some of those smaller sizes, especially, it can be really hard to tell just by looking at the hook. So let me try and get these out of the way here, because then I can show you a couple of different products that can help with that. And those are crochet hook gauges. And I have two of them right here. This one I've owned for a couple years. This one I just got, and I waited till today to open so I could open it with you guys right now. Basically, the difference between a crochet hook gauge and a knitting gauge is that for a crochet hook gauge, it can't be a circle that you stick your needle into. This Clover set comes with both, so I can show you. This would be a knitting needle gauge because, let me grab my, it would actually work for a Tunisian hook, I suppose, but basically you're going to be sticking your hook through that hole and seeing what gives you the closest size to tell you what size your hook is. As you can see, it's caught, works a little bit better for knitting needles. For crochet hooks, you're going to want this kind right here. You can see it's open on one side, so you can just take your hook and slide it, you know, as soon as it fits, then you know you've got your right spot, just like that. Same thing with this one. Let's see, where are we? There we are. I found my size right there. Let's see. All right, perfect. Let's see, does it match? It does. Good, Brittany, 5.5 on the dot. Well done. So this can be a great tool if you've got hooks, like I say, hooks in your collection somewhere that aren't labeled, or the label's worn off. Maybe they were never labeled. Maybe they're from another country. I mean, you know, or they were handmade. Lots of reasons you might want to double check your hook size. So Clover makes this kind. This one is by Lacey's. Both fantastic. Handy tools. This one does go up a little bit higher. You can see this one does have a circle for this one. It's a US, would it be a 20 millimeter crochet hook? So like I said, at the bigger sizes, you can usually tell what they are anyway, or actually break out a tape measure. With some bigger hooks, when I haven't had, when they've been too big even for my gauges, you can actually take a tape measure then and actually measure the shaft. And that will tell you the hook size, because that's the part that that millimeter measurement is referring to. It's referring to the size of the shaft measured all the way around. So another little tidbit there. So let's see. Yay. Okay, great. Oh, I'm so glad I gave you something new. Yeah, the gauges are great. And I like this Clover set because if you knit two, it also comes with a knit gauge, which is fun. But this one comes with the hole cut out in the middle here. Here I am. And this is great if you've been crocheting something and you want to just pull up the nearest thing here and you want to check your gauge. It is set right to 4 inches, which sort of is a standard gauge thing. So it just gives you that little window, makes it a little easier to count. So your, you know, your measuring tape doesn't move back and forth on you. Not that that's never happened to me. Right. Doesn't happen to any of us. All right. So anyway, that is Crochet Hooks 101. We've talked about materials, handles, you know, what size is going to work for you. Try them out. That's my best tip. Talk to your friends, see what hooks they're using, see if you can borrow them back and forth. And, you know, feel free to explore the different ones. Yeah, give them a try. I think you'll find different ones you like. So let's see. I think we've covered all the questions, unless you guys have any more questions. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Like I said, go to the link in the description. I've got links to, I think, everything I've talked about today. If I didn't, leave me a comment on the blog post, ideally, so I can add it right to the blog post there, and I'll have all the links to all these products. I know I've got the gauges on there, most, if not all, of the hooks. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching. You'll also find all the patterns and yarn links there, so definitely check that out. I want to thank Red Heart for sponsoring this. Definitely, like I say, check out these patterns, they're bees. And I will leave you with one sneak peek. Coming up next month, I will have a pattern featuring Red Heart It's a Wrap sprinkles. You can start looking for this one, I think, in Michael's, because that's where the other It's a Wraps are, and definitely on redheart.com right now. This is the cupcake colorway, and yeah, I'm excited to get started on that project. That's what I'm doing next today. So I will get started on that and let you guys have the rest of your afternoon. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. I'll be back with another live, I believe, May 29th. So I'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.